Okay, so living history as a different perspective on history that you might have seen or might have heard or learned in school is something that I'd like to present to you today because I interviewed my father about his experience in the Battle of the Bulge, and that was the bloodiest campaign during the European theater of World War II. It lasted from December 1944 to January 1945. And during that time, rations and, everything was very limited, and survival was very, very, uncertain. But my father found the courage through his comrades and through his willingness to survive to make it through this. And he told me about, just building up the courage to keep going, even though, there were times when he didn't have any more bullets, and he didn't have any more food. And there were times where he'd had to use like snow for water. But you can survive if you just have the courage. And that's what I want you to take away from this speech is that, even though America might be going through some hard times economically, and it's uncertain what you can do with all your college experience or with all the student loans and all this that we're doing right now, there's no reason to be afraid because you have more than what my father had. You have plenty of blessings. My father came from a very, poor family. That all they had was a farm, and even back then, what a farmer made was still below average, and they had to work very hard for what they had. And even with that, my dad still signed up to go and fight for the war, even though he wasn't certain if he'd survive or even come back home to a good, stable living environment. My father fought in the center of Germany, like where all the battle was taking place, and it was a very, very frightening situation. He told me how difficult it was to go on every single day, but he told me that he just had this will to survive because he knew that back home he had to establish a family. He had people waiting on him, so he gave that same resolve to his comrades, and that's what I want you to take away from this. I really want you to not be afraid, to be hopeful, because even though the dollar is losing its value, if everything is sinking, it can only get better. It can't get much worse. It can't be as worse as that. There really should not be anything to be afraid of because we are moving forward and we're gaining more technology, and we cannot be depressed about this situation we're in. Because as my father kept his willingness to survive, we should too. And I think that if you don't have any hope for your future, then what are you living for? My father found that same courage to come back home, start a family, become a dentist, put himself through very trying times, but he lived a very full life. And I think you can too. I think all of us can if we just take that same courage and that same willingness to survive. And thank you for listening.